Alright, hi there everyone, it's Beatrice again. And today I thought that we would discuss 4 Buddhist truths that can be helpful for healthcare workers. Now, I know that religion, I know spirituality is a very, very individual and personal area of life. But whatever your beliefs, it's always helpful to learn about other traditions and to learn about different ways of looking at things, right? Because there's nothing to say that we can't pull pieces of advice or pieces of wisdom from different cultures, different belief systems, and incorporate them into our own lives. And I think Buddhism lends itself nicely to that, especially for healthcare workers. So, what we're going to be going through today are what are called the Four Noble Truths, or really the 4 pillars of Buddhism. And there are many ways that you can take this, there's many interpretations that follow. But again, especially for people in the medical field, I think that there's a lot of wisdom and a lot of comfort that can be derived from this. So, the first of the noble truths is that there is suffering in life. And anybody who works in healthcare, anybody who works in the medical field, I think is going to agree with this, that if you are born, right, you think about most babies, the moment they're born, what do they start doing? They start crying, right? And biologically, there's reasons for that. They need to breathe, etc. But you can think about it from a philosophical perspective, that we're born and one of the first things we do is cry, right? Because to live is because suffering is inherent to life. You cannot be alive without suffering, and this is one of the things that Buddhism teaches us. Now, certainly there are different kinds of suffering. It's certainly not a competition. I often tell my patients it's not a competition. This person is worse off than you are, but you're struggling with it more than they are. But one of the universal truths is that if you are alive, if you are on this earth, you are going to know suffering. Now, the second truth is the one that a lot of people find a bit harder to digest or harder to swallow, and it's that we contribute to our own suffering. And I want you to pause and just think about this for a minute, right? And I'll give you some examples. Now, certainly there are unfortunate circumstances in life that find us, and we can't control that, right? But if we think about, for example, Viktor Frankl, right? The space in which we control our actions, right? Between the stimulus and the response, that's our freedom. That's what we're able to control. We can't control the stimulus, right? We can't control what life throws at us. But what is in our control? And Buddhism teaches us that some of the suffering, at least, that we experience in life is due to things that we can control, at least with some work. Things like our desires, right? Think about things that you've wanted, things that you've longed for, you've yearned for. Maybe things that you knew weren't going to happen, but you still wanted them anyway, right? And that led to suffering. Attachment, especially attachment to things that maybe aren't right for us or things that aren't meant for us, right? How easily do you let go or recognize things that are not meant for you? And then ignorance as well. And ignorance, not in a negative way, but lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge about ourselves, right? Especially when you were younger. Maybe it took you a while to realize some of your flaws, some of your personality traits that always got you into trouble, speaking from personal experience. And these are just a few of the many ways that we can contribute to our own suffering, or at least exacerbate our own suffering. Now, the third of the noble truths is that if we play a role in our own suffering, it follows that we can play a role in relieving our suffering. And this is where we start to get hopeful. Because if we think about, desires and longing and yearning, attachment to things that aren't right for us or aren't good for us or aren't meant for us, or ignorance about ourselves, ignorance about the world, contributing to our own suffering, then are there ways that we can approach this life, this suffering, to decrease our suffering? And the noble truths of Buddhism say yes. And then the fourth of the noble truths is that there is a path that we can actually follow that leads us out of suffering, or in the very least helps to relieve, helps to alleviate some of the suffering that each of us experience in life. And I'm sure, if you're a healthcare worker looking at this, you can think of patients, you can think of ways that maybe they could conduct their lives that would help relieve suffering. But I'm going to challenge you to think about, are there ways, are there things that you do in life that you could change or you could alter that might help relieve your suffering? And this isn't going to be something that's overnight, right? This isn't going to be something that, you wake up tomorrow and suddenly there's no more suffering, you're completely free. But these are things that, over time, with inner work, with attention, you can actually carve a path for yourself that is better than the one that you are currently leading. So that's where I think that the Noble Truths really apply to healthcare, because I think there's a lot of suffering, a lot of distress that we feel secondary to the nature of our work, secondary to what we're seeing, secondary to frustrations about what we're able to do versus what we're not able to do. And I just highlight these to kind of bring to your attention this ages old tradition, these thoughts that have been around for many, many years and touched many, many people in so many ways, as kind of, feel for thought, right? Whether this is an angle that you might consider taking in your own life, looking for ways to relieve suffering, acknowledging that suffering is part of life and we cannot make it go away forever and ever. But are there things that we can do to try and decrease the burden on ourselves and decrease the burden on others as well? So if you found this helpful, please don't hesitate to like, comment, subscribe, let me know, and follow for more helpful tidbits like this.